Hey guys, welcome to the RAMZPAUL show. It is Monday, December 9th. I hope you're all having a great day. We're coming up to Christmas, busy time of year. And welcome to the RAMZPAUL show. We do this Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. And it's wonderful to be here. On Wednesday, we have Happy Homelands. Alicia will be on again this week. So tune into that. We got a lot of stuff to discuss this week. And I've kind of changed the format a little bit. What I do now is every day I focus on the top stories and we kind of drill into them. How long I go? Well, it depends on your interaction. It depends on the subject matter. So I just have some fun. And if you guys want to interact, there's super chats on YouTube, rants on Rumble, Powerchats right here. And in the description is a stream elements. There's a tip feature. So I appreciate that. And let's see what else. And on Sunday, if you guys check it out, yesterday's session, I did Night Owls. That's a blast. We always have so much fun doing that together. And we had a good time with that. Also on Sundays, we have our roundtable. Again, it's just a fun turnout, good group of people. If you want to be part of that, the Gumroad GroupApp, there's links below. We do that every week. We really have a community forming. And it's a busy time of year. This weekend, we had a Christmas party at our friend Staves that we met through the show and his lovely wife. This is the third year. It gets like better every year. It's a wonderful party, great food, and we're having some people over this weekend. So a lot of fun stuff happening. All right. And thank you all guys for being here. And I think we will get started. And I already got a power chat before the show. Let me bring that up. This was from Tony. Kind of sounds like a good Italian name almost, right? Let's see if this goes through. Tony, yes, Tony. We Rams, a man named Luigi committed an act without his brother Mario. I love Mario brothers too. Anyway, Rams, thoughts on Luigi and what this crime seems to have been about? Did this man make the health insurance crisis worse? No, I don't think he made it worse. I don't really think that's possible. Yeah, we'll get into that. I guess his name is the suspect, allegedly Luigi Mangione, right? Or Magione, a very Italian, someone you see on the Sopranos. And it's interesting. He's a really young guy. He's like 26 years old. I think the same age as Nick Fuentes. Two guys got arrested. And everyone assumed that the shooter, the left, like Reddit, there you go, he's one of us. He's like Antifa. And it turns out this guy, it's hard to classify people. And I talked about this earlier when on Substack, by the way, subscribe to me. I try to do an essay every day. And I talked about the terms like neoconservatism, how it's been it conflated with Zionism, and they're really two different things. And the whole left versus right paradigm is kind of crumbling. It's useful because we have to have some designation, but there's just a lot of differences between, let's say, the populist right and the official Republican right. And you see the differences in the Democratic Party too. So there's a lot of spillover. For example, you think people that are unhappy with our healthcare system, they must be liberals and Democrats. Well, I think anyone that uses our healthcare system and our insurance model, unless you're very wealthy, because if you're very wealthy, you can get top of the line insurance. And then whatever you have to pay in deductibles, you don't really care because you got a lot of money, right? And then on the other extreme are the very poor people or illegals or people like that. They just don't give a shit. They get medical treatment. And even if they get a bill, they don't care because they don't pay it. What are you going to do? And so they don't really care. So it's really the middle class that has been screwed by the current medical system. And when I'm talking the medical system, I'm not just talking, the doctors or nurses or the administration, although that's part of the problem too, all of that, but also the insurance agencies and how they work with Congress. Because again, this is a whole, whenever you get a very wealthy enterprise or industry, the people, they donate a lot of money to our politicians. Same with the military industrial complex, big pharma. That's why it's so hard to change, because our system is built in that the politicians are receptive to bribes or campaign funds, they call it. They don't really care about the people they represent. So change is very difficult when the big, like pharmaceuticals or the big insurance agencies, are paying Nancy Pelosi or Tom Cotton. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat, they pay them off so that they keep their monopoly in place. And the American healthcare system historically has been pretty good healthcare if you can afford it. But what's happening and it's been happening for the past 30, 40 years, healthcare costs are just going out crazy compared to the rest of inflation. And as such, the insurance premiums are going crazy, and then they don't pay off. And a lot of people are very frustrated. And I don't think this is a right versus left issue. I bring this up, but this brings up another issue. The evil mustache man, you remember him? The guy that was the failed artist, although I thought his art wasn't that bad. He actually had a national healthcare plan in Germany. That was years ago in the 20s and 30s. And I know some people, but they're not really right wing. It was socialist, national socialist. So you get into this stupid debate versus right wing versus left wing. But most people consider them to be right wing. So there's trying to define these issues is sort of difficult. And when you have the establishment types, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, they seem to fall in line pretty well. And so there's really a division in our country that's almost economically based. I don't want to say it's class warfare, but it's a little bit about that. And so this is why when this happened, this guy allegedly gunned down the CEO of an insurance company. And this insurance company had a long history of denying claims more than any other insurance agency in the industry. And the CEO bragged they put in AI, we're using AI. And the AI helped to reject 90% of the claims, and it costs lives because then you can't get the treatment or you go bankrupt. It destroys families. It's a horrendous thing. And on one level, you can't blame the CEO because his job is to maximize profits, right? That's why he's in there. He's not in there to help people. So to maximize profits, you try to get as much insurance premiums as you can. You sell it or you try to jack it up, and you try to decrease doing your payouts. Ideally, you'd never have to pay out ever. You got tons of premiums. That'd be ideal. Wouldn't happen, but that's what they would love. So that's his job. And then he doesn't really have to worry about customers, really, because we kind of got a monopoly system in the United States, which is another problem. So this is part of the issue that we have in the United States. And if anyone really objects, what does he care? He just pays off politicians. They're not going to change the system, right? The only thing he didn't really factor in was someone may get pissed off enough that they would shoot him. He didn't really factor that into the equation. Now the CEOs of these companies have to factor that into the equation. And I think it already had an impact. I mean, they probably deny it. But at the same time, a Blue Cross in Connecticut, I think, they announced they were going to limit how much anesthesia they pay for. So let's say if you're in an operation and they think, the operation should only take 30 minutes, but for some reason there's a complication, so it has to go an hour. The insurance company will say, well, we're not going to pay for the extra half hour because you went over your time allotment. I mean, it's just crazy. What are they supposed to do? Just let you die or cut off your anesthesia? And so they were posing that. But after the shooting, Even they, I think, got spooked and they canceled that plan. So it was interesting. And I figured this guy is hard. So the right versus left terms, again, they have a lot of issues with those. But looking at his history, he would be somewhat on the right, I would say, more than the left. He wasn't an anti-fa, transgender drug addict. He was a pretty good looking guy, I think. I'm not an expert on how guys look, but I showed his pics to Sasha, and she said, yeah, he's a really good looking guy. So, and he was into health and fitness, and he wasn't your typical shitlib, but looked like. In fact, he retweeted on Wednesday, doing a show with Alicia. He tweeted her, and we'll talk about that on Wednesday. It was kind of fascinating. And he followed like RFK Jr. and stuff. So he wasn't your typical Reddit type of guy. He was intelligent. He was a valedictorian in his school, went to an Ivy League school, the whole bit. He has more of a vibe of the Unabomber, Kaczynski. He's kind of got that more of a vibe about him. And it struck a chord with a lot of people. And before we go into this further, I just have to give you my position on it. I am opposed, obviously, to murder. And if he's found guilty, I think he should get the maximum penalty, right? So I don't have any sympathy with him that way. That, just to make clear, people shouldn't do these violent crimes. In a good society, you don't have to do this sort of thing. You shouldn't do this sort of thing. So I'm not saying he should be pardoned or let go or anything else. But sometimes in our history, and I'm not saying it's right, but in America anyway, there have been certain outlaws that have been romanticized for whatever reason. In the Depression in the 30s, the Bonnie and Clyde were two examples. There were a couple that robbed banks. So supposedly they gave money to some of the poor people. I don't know how much that's true, but it's during the Depression, and a lot of people had a frustration with the banks and the whole establishment. So they became kind of a little bit like folk heroes. I would say, a few decades ago, Kaczynski, the Unabomber, he killed people by bombing. But he's the only one that had a manifesto that was interesting. Everyone else's manifesto is stupid. And people still read him. He was a very intelligent man, and he brought up a lot of important points. So I don't believe in this false dichotomy, like if you do something bad, that means everything else you say is wrong. That's not necessarily the case. Ted Kaczynski brought up a lot of good points. People still discuss him. And this guy, Luigi, he made a manifesto. Hopefully it'll be released. He had like a kill switch he released on YouTube, his YouTube channel, that said, if you see this video, that means I've been arrested, but stay tuned. I'm going to release my manifesto on, I forget, December, some other time. I don't know if he will now because his YouTube channel and he's on X, he's been banned. So we'll have to see what his manifesto was. But he seemed to be someone that was very upset at our healthcare system. And we can look at clues. He may have had some back issues, and maybe his healthcare provider wouldn't cover what needed to be done. I'm not sure. We're speculating. But he wasn't your typical killer type that just randomly kills people, rob a bank and kill someone, or kill someone at the gas station, or gets in a fight with someone. This guy was pretty methodical, and he did it for ideological reasons. And again, I don't support it, but I think a lot of people in America that aren't part of the upper or upper middle class that have everything easy can kind of sympathize with his actions, right or wrong. I even saw that Josh Shapiro, the Democrat of Pennsylvania governor, oh, that's horrible. No one should sympathize with him. And both the right and the left leadership is saying this. But in the populace, you have a lot of people, while they may not support what he did, there is a certain, I think, romanticism about it for a variety of reasons. Meaning he picked a target that they find frustrating, that they feel, who hasn't been screwed by an insurance company? Everyone feels some, they kind of get what they've been asking for. And not that they would advocate it, but there's that sentiment there. And then it wasn't just killing random people, it was targeted. And then plus he has the good looks that appeals to people, and that's important too. So it's that whole thing that is going on there. So it was an interesting case, and it'll be interesting when he'll go to court and all that. Let's see. Question: what is your favorite classic rock song? I don't know. I Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. That just popped in my head. I don't know. I'd have to think about it, but I did like a lot of Pink Floyd about that. So thank you, Blue Eyes White Dragon. All right, let's look at some more of this stuff here, and we'll kind of go through this. We go to a couple. Let's see, how long is this video? Nah, I'm not going to show that video because it's too long. Hang on. Let's just hear from here. Yeah, we'll show this one here. This one's better.
Mail at a local restaurant.
All right,
9 a.m. Altoona police officers received a call of a suspicious male at a local restaurant. It was reported that the male matched the description of the United Healthcare murder in New York City. When officers arrived, they made contact with the male who had a face mask on. That male was asked to remove his face mask, and officers immediately recognized him as a suspect in the New York City shooting in recent days. That male was asked for a form of identification. He then provided a fake identification card out of New Jersey. After a brief investigation, it was determined that the ID provided was in fact a fake ID, and he was subsequently arrested for a forgery charge. Once he was taken into custody for that forgery charge, he was transported to the Altoona Police Department. Once at the Altoona Police Department, that male was searched instant to arrest. It was discovered that he had a United States passport that identified him as, Luigi Mangione.
Luigi Mangione.
From there, continued search of his property. A firearm was located, and a suppressor was also located. There were also other items of evidentiary value that were located that would assist in this investigation.
So it looks like it's him. He made a couple of mistakes. You would think, being Italian, you should know when you do a hit on someone, you immediately need to throw he should have thrown the gun in the Hudson River, right? That's what they do. Or the East River. He should have got rid of the gun right away, and he shouldn't keep that on him, because then they can tie you directly. So he made some mistakes, and he made a mistake when he showed his face that time. So it looks like they did get him. And here's just a kind of just taking a look at the guy here. Breaking: the 26-year-old suspect arrested for the murder of United Healthcare Brian Thompson, Luigi Mangione. He comes from the University of Pennsylvania, and, he looks like a pretty good health type of guy here. And here he is with someone else, and here he is, kind of weird eyebrows, but this is the guy that I've identified as the suspect. Oops, let me fix this here. All right. And let's see here. They have some more what we know about this guy. Luigi. Let's see here. Authorities have identified a strong person of interest. Actually, they've arrested him. And he was arrested in the McDonald's, and someone ratted him out. There was a tip. They saw him in the McDonald's. and he had a fake ID. So it looks like this is what has happened. It does look like they got the guy there. Some more information about him. And some of these people are thinking, there's all these conspiracy theories. Maybe it's not really him, but I think it is. So let me get this straight. The killer is Luigi Mangione, Ivy League grad with a degree in computer science, avid reader, and an active contributor on GitHub. Yeah. He has 130 plus IQ, probably, but he takes his mask off at Starbucks to flirt with an employee. Yeah, you got to always be careful with what head you think with, the big head or little head. So I'm not surprised. Then an hour later, he goes and calmly kills the CEO of a major healthcare company, rides away on the bike. Yeah. Week later, he goes to a local McDonald's where he brings a murder weapon, the fake idea he used to get in the hotel, and a written manifest on how horrible the American healthcare system is. And he gets identified by the cashier after he sits down. He works on his police top until the police come inside the McDonald's and he gets caught. Yeah, people do stupid things. And I know you think, obviously, if you're going to do a shooting like this, you should have dumped the gun right away in the river. And he should have never showed his face. And he should have had a plan, I would think, to leave the country. So this is sort of what happens when you're not careful. A little bit of this, just what I wanted to show you, some of his posts he made that shows you how he thought. And again, he wasn't your typical Reddit lefty type, just based on some of these comments. Someone was talking about Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson always used kind of word salad. And don't say stochastic if you can just say random, and so forth. And Luigi said, this is why Jordan Peterson always bothers me. Overcomplicates everything he says aloud, wasting everyone's mental bandwidth and having to decipher it. The best teachers are best communicators. Clean, succinct, and simple language. And that's true. Sometimes you need to use more sophisticated words. But I've noticed midwits, especially, they like to use big words they don't quite understand. Sometimes you see black people do this a lot too. Just even little things. Instead of saying, oh, look, there's a car. Oh, there's a vehicle. It's just ridiculous. It's a way to try to make you sound more impressive than you are. And so he was right about language. And the other thing we're going to talk about this Wednesday night, and I'm glad Alicia screenshotted this before they deleted all his posts. And you can see Luigi Mangione, he retweeted Daughter of Wolves. And she's talked about the plight of men. If you want to understand men better, just look at all the movies they made, books that they've written, games they invent when they're young. Almost every single one is about a young man being thrust into a position or situation he doesn't know if he can overcome. And again, we'll talk about this more in depth on Wednesday, but it's sort of the spirit of a man. And for some reason, Luigi found that interesting enough to retweet. So I don't think he was your standard lefty on any sense. And here's another thing he posted, which I said Luigi is on the leftist. Because you remember all the people on the right, oh, he's just some lefty that did this. I think Ben Shapiro and all that. I'm like, no, you're simplifying things too much here. And again, if you want to use a whole left-right dichotomy. But he was talking about Luigi, Japanese. And it was interesting because I saw before they deleted his X account, he had photos of himself in Japan. So he's been to Japan. He was hanging around some guys. And he's talking about birth rates and how it's not immigration. The solution to falling birth rates isn't immigration, it's culture. And I would agree with that. Because the shit lib is like, oh, who cares if they're aborting their babies? We just need to bring in a bunch of Africans. That's the solution. And, he was talking about something more sophisticated about the whole, the sexuality and the pornography and the crisis of masculinity, how Japanese used to be like really tough men, and now they're watching anime and they are, instead of fitness, they're just playing video games. And I think I'm going to talk more about this on Wednesday. But so he understood this. He had this perspective, which is definitely not a leftist perspective at all. And JF had some interesting comments on him. Speaking of interesting characters, JF maybe could give us insights on the best way to do crime. So he probably has some good insights on how to get away with it. Some notes on Luigi. He came from a grandfather who had 10 children. The grandfather owned a tourist resort and a radio station. It came from a very wealthy family. He had a computer science degree up to the master's level. His sister's a doctor. So again, this was a very successful family. And he was still single. And there was a report, and I saw this on his X. He showed a picture of his back, and he was interested in back pain in the medical industry. My guess is he probably suffered some back injury, and the United Health probably denied him the treatment he needed. I'm speculating, but I wouldn't doubt that there would be something. He published a video stating he would be arrested, but not to worry, that everything was scheduled for December 11th. I don't know how he's still going to publish it, because he should have been smart enough to know when you do something like that, they take down your YouTube channel and your X, which they have now. But maybe he has a way still of publishing this manifesto. I imagine that his manifesto would be a little bit more sophisticated, more like the Unabombers than the typical transgender guy that shoots up a school. I suspect he's an ideological killer. I agree with that. And well, interested to see what happens if we're able to see the manifesto, or they are able to stop it. I think that would be interesting at looking at this. So what this means, I guess, in general, is it raises this whole healthcare issue into the spotlight. And again, I'm not going to be one of these people that says what he did was wrong. Is right. I mean, what he did was wrong. He deserves to be arrested. He deserves to get, I think it's in New York, they don't have the death penalty, so life in prison. I support that. If I served on the jury, I would find him guilty, it looks like, and I would sentence him, to life in prison. So I don't have sympathy for him at all in that way. Just understand that. But he was, like Kaczynski or the Unabomber, an interesting figure, because he did this violence not for his own personal gain. He did it to try to illustrate a problem that a lot of people are experiencing in society. This was like, I think, based on what he retweeted from Alicia and his other thinking, he probably wanted to be like the heroic knight that put his life down to expose something horrible that was going on. And also based on his looks, I think a lot of this will resonate with people, and there will be an element, we'll try to stamp down, of making him kind of like a folk hero, the tragic folk hero. Again, like Bonnie and Clyde, or even some of the old Wild West type of outlaws. And I think we're going to see some of that with him. So it will be interesting what more information we get about this. I tweeted this morning, I thought the guy would be out of the country, but he never left the country. And so he was caught. And I guess he already knew he was going to get caught. Maybe he wanted to get caught. When women fall in love with Ted Bundy, how much could Luigi guy be like a Ted Bundy with women? Oh yeah, he's going to be extremely popular with women. I can already guarantee you guys that's no doubt that will happen. Yeah, Ted Bundy, he was popular because of his looks, and Ted Bundy was one of the creepiest serial killers, I thought, because you would never suspect him. Most people, even serial killers, you can tell, there's something off about this guy. But Ted Bundy just seemed like a charming, normal man, and he did all this horrific thing. And he had a whole female fan following. There's no doubt about it. He got love letters and so forth. But to be fair, even if you're ugly, if you commit horrific crimes, a lot of women are going to really like that, and you're going to get a lot of love letters. But if you combine that with being good looking, I think the Zodiac Killer, or the who was that? Not the Zodiac Killer, the Night Strangler guy in LA. I forget his name. He got a lot of love letters too. So this guy will. There's no doubt about it. And but in a sense, I think he's going to be more popular than Ted Bundy, because Ted Bundy, he killed women because of he was a serial killer. He killed innocent young women for his sexual deviancy. I mean, it's horrific. And this guy killed a CEO because of ideological reasons. Louis Barrow, I knew it wasn't Tyrone Owan who killed the CEO because he had planning and intelligence, and it took to evade the police this long. Had the CEO was carjacked and shot, I think it would. I would think Tyrone. Yeah, he showed some intelligence in how he planned this out. It wasn't your typical like carjacking. Most murders, they know right away who did it. It's just impulsive, and it's usually the victim knows personally the person involved. So, you're in the hood, someone disrespects you, you get mad and shoot them up. I mean, that's typically what happens in like South Chicago every weekend. So this is a little bit different. It was a more sophisticated killing. And again, he made some mistakes though. He supposedly kept the gun. You should never keep the gun. You should always get rid of it. And he had an initial good escape plan. But if you're going to do something this dramatic and you don't want to get caught, he should have immediately drove up to Canada. He would have got through Canada okay, then take a flight to Mexico and disappear. But he didn't do that for whatever reason. So he did make some mistakes. But yeah, I could tell it was a little bit more sophisticated planning involved that you wouldn't see with your local gangbanger. So yeah, thanks for that. And let me just see here, get everything here. The Night Stalker, that was his name. Yeah, the Night Stalker. He was popular with a lot of the women. He killed women in LA. So that was one big news, Luigi. And the more interesting aspect, I predict how this case will go. And we're already seeing this a little bit. You'll have a lot of the establishment types from the left and the right be horrified about this. And then you'll have a popular movement kind of looking at him in a sympathetic fashion. Not that I advocate that, I'm just saying what I think will happen. A lot of women will love him, and a lot of people, he'll become like a folk hero, like, some of the old outlaws. And it's creating a tension in America about how there's this great divide between a lot of the classes in America. And this is both Democrat and Republican. And, like someone like Ben Shapiro, he thought, oh, this is a leftist that did this. And, and he was, he's a very rich multimillionaire, so he doesn't understand some of these issues. But this resonates more with the people that are affected by these issues. Whereas a lot of people, even, the rich liberals, they don't understand it either. So it's going to create an interesting division, and how this goes forward. Obviously most people are going to come out and say, obviously this is a bad thing, but secretly some people are going to be sympathetic. We're already seeing that. And I think that's just going to intensify. And it's interesting because it shows how society in many ways is breaking apart, that people feel there is no real solution. And this is not just healthcare, but everything in America, that you really can't do any change. because all these powerful people, they buy the politicians anyway. Like the CEO of, I'm sure, the healthcare group, they pay off the politicians. So there's not going to be changes that help the consumer. And people feel very frustrated that there's no way to change things. So, and again, I don't advocate this. I think it's good he got arrested and he should go to jail, prison. But I'm just saying that a lot of people, again, that aren't the elite or very wealthy, are going to be somewhat sympathetic towards him. Not saying they should, but that's the way it is. All right. So that was the Luigi part. Let me see if there's anything else on that. Cold steel makes functional and affordable swords. Oh, let me bring this up here. This is a super chat. It's for a good price and is disposable. Yeah, swords always seem kind of cool to me. And I've never had a sword, but yeah, they're pretty neat. It's cold steel. And here's Luigi in the thumbnail, LMA. Yeah, I had Grok. That's the AI for X. I just had the AI make me that thumbnail. I love AI. It can do stuff like that. So thank you for that. And thank you for that. So again, my position, I disavow what he did. He should be arrested. He should spend the rest of his life in jail. But I understand, because I'm in the position, I'm not one of those multimillionaires like Ben Shapiro and those guys. I understand the frustration, and I can understand, how some people, because of his looks, I guess. I don't know guys' looks, but when I showed him to Sasha, he said, yeah, he's a hottie. So I think that's going to resonate. All right. Now we have another killing, but this we had a good outcome on. So we're going to transition now to let me just bring this up here. Daniel Penny all the charges were dropped. As of Friday, the big manslaughter charge, the jury acquitted him of, and the judge, they sent him back like, well, check these other charges, lesser charges like negligent homicide. And the jury today said, no, we're not convicting him of anything. And just so you understand what this case was about, he was on a subway, and this guy, probably kind of crazy. We have these types. He was black, homeless, drug addict, and he was an entertainer. That means he'd act like an idiot and get in everyone's face and demand money. That was him on the best. But other times he would actually try to rob people. He had been arrested many times, and he was on the subway threatening people in New York City, not just white people. He was black, but he's threatening other blacks. So Daniel Penny and another black guy, by the way, they subdued him. They held him down so he couldn't hurt anyone. And Daniel Penny had him in a chokehold to hold him down until the police got there. And then later, I forget his name, Neely or something. He's a piece of shit. Again, thug, low-level criminal. He died, and that's a good thing. Life is better because he's dead. He didn't add anything to society. And then, so it should have been, Penny should be seen as a hero. He protected people from this thug. It wasn't like he just randomly I don't like black people. That guy's just sitting there minding his business. Oh, I can't tolerate it. And I'm going to choke him out. It wasn't that. This guy was violent. He was attacking people. And we're tired of it. And it's sort of like another story with a healthcare insurance agency, how they screw people. People are tired of thugs and criminals that are making our places shitty. You go to other countries, like when I lived in Hungary, no problems. Everyone just sits on the subway. People are quiet. They read their books. We don't want some black guy jumping around, acting like a fool, and then trying to demand money from people. Fuck that. They shouldn't be on there, right? It's for humans, not people acting like savages or animals. And so they prosecuted him, and the whole prosecution was racially based because the district attorney is this Jewish lady that has made a big to-do about her grandparents were killed in the Holocaust, of course, and that she has this racial vengeance not just against Nazis or Germans, because you remember we fought against the Nazis, but all white people. She just thinks it's just horrible. All white people are guilty. So we got to help white people accountable. So if Penny would have been black, he wouldn't have been charged. Or if the thug would have been white, there wouldn't have been any charges. So she just pursued this for racial reasons because she has a racial hatred in her heart towards white people and Christians. Seriously, that's what it is. And that was the whole basis of it. And a lot of people thought he'd probably be convicted because it was in New York City and the juries, it was a lot of blacks on the jury. But, you know, even a lot of blacks, because they had witnesses on the train, and a lot of the witnesses were black passengers, and they were like, yeah, I was happy he did this. We were scared. He protected us. And so it wasn't really a racial thing. It was the thug threatening people. And, you know, if you don't want to be in a situation where you get in a chokehold, don't threaten innocent people. It's not that hard, right? I do that all the time. I ride transportations and I don't threaten people. Yeah, I don't run around like the fool, dancing like a monkey or something. I just act like a human. And so it shouldn't be that hard, but I guess this guy couldn't do it. So Penny had to hold him down. And the jury agreed because I think we have a real vibe shift in America that people are just taught, they don't want crime anymore. They don't like violent crime. And things have changed so much since 2020, the whole George Floyd thing. We came out of the COVID insanity, all that hoax. People lost their minds. It was just like a hysteria came across a lot of America. And that has changed. I think the vibe has changed. And people are like, oh, I bet there's going to be rioting in New York City tonight. And I don't know. I haven't checked the news tonight yet, guys. Are they rioting in New York City tonight? I said they wouldn't because I don't think people are really in the mood for criminals anymore. And they should really look at the whole George Floyd thing again because he didn't even die by the cop. He was a thug himself. And people don't want criminals terrorizing people. So that was a good outcome. And let's just take a look at some of the the reaction. Got a video here we'll take a look at.
Penny and his lawyers raising a toast to his freedom just moments after a jury in Manhattan found the Marine veteran not guilty of criminally negligent homicide in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely on a crowded subway. The verdict causing the courtroom to erupt in claps from Penny's defense as well as threats on Penny's life from Black Lives Matter leaders who just days ago promised riots if Penny was acquitted.
Everybody else has vigilantes. We need some black vigilantes.
Yes, right. Yes, right. I mean, pretty much everyone doing the violent crime in New York City is black. Let's be honest. So he's trying to hype people up. Again, if you were a white person and you said this, unless you should be cut a deal with the feds, you would be going to jail. And we need to start, when Donald Trump is in, we need to use RICO on what's left of Black Lives Matter. I don't know, is Black Lives Matter still a thing? All the leaders, they tended to abscond with the money. A lot of them went to jail for embezzlement and fraud.
That's right.
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us?
Well, he wasn't just choking random black people. He was choking a criminal. I don't think the race had anything to do with it.
Kill us for being loud?
No, he did it for attacking people.
How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
The only crime that Jordan Neely was guilty of was the color of his skin. These wonderful white people, I hope they celebrate their Christmas while the Neely family is praying and asking God for comfort. Them and America.
Yeah, we'll be celebrating his death. It's a good thing he's dead.
Judge Janine Pirro is going to get a major exclusive. She'll be sitting down with Daniel Penny for his first interview since the not guilty verdict.
That's going to be great. We got to watch that.
And I cannot wait to see that. You can catch the first look right here. That'll be on the 5 tomorrow. And then the full interview streams on Wednesday on Fox Nation.
Now, Daniel Penny's a real hero, not the Luigi. Luigi's not a real hero. Now, I can understand He's going to get a lot of attraction. He's going to be kind of like an anti-hero. But this guy is like the good guy. So this Daniel Penny is like the cowboy with the white hat that upholds the law, the good guy. Luigi is kind of the guy, the scoundrel outlaw that wears the black hat, but also kills other outlaws. That's how you got to see this.
Judge Janine, I'm so glad you're going to get this chance to talk to him. And you've been at the trial. You know the lawyers involved. You've followed every step of this. I think this is a result that many of us thought should be the case. But as of Friday, it was definitely not a sure thing.
You're right, Dana. I think Friday when they said that they were hung on the Man 2 top count, but that they would be coming back on the crim neg, we were all concerned that it might be a compromised crim neg guilty verdict. The truth is that as you analyze this, the justification that they clearly had a problem with on the Man 2, which is why they hung, they had the same problem, and it's the same justification issue in the crim neg homicide. So without getting into weeds, they finally, all of them decided that he was justified. And it was a good day for New York. It's a good day for America because people, like Hawk Newsom can come out and say, we need black vigilantes, people shouldn't be killed for yelling. I mean, they don't know the facts or they're hiding the facts. I mean, this is a guy who had 42 arrests in a 7-year period.
This is a problem right here, too, that we got to fix in our justice system. And again, Black Lives Matter and the whole George Floyd hysteria try to elevate blacks up. Like, they have this weird idea that blacks are disproportionately in prison because of white supremacy. It's like, no, because they do disproportionately more crimes. And if you're ever around in the world, you see that in the real life. You can understand it. And 42 times, he shouldn't have been on the streets. We shouldn't tolerate people 42 times. In the RAMZPAUL kingdom, I wouldn't have a jail sentence over 5 years. I really wouldn't. There's just some sentences you'd be executed on. And others, okay, 5 years, we try to rehabilitate you. But we're not going to keep putting up with crimes over and over and over, even if they're just minor, let's say, theft crimes. So maybe 1 or 2 times or even 3 times, we would put you in prison. But then eventually, we're just going to put you in the graveyard because you just can't function in society, right? The guy that was killed, he didn't add anything to society. He just brought everything down. He made the world uglier, and he attacked people. He created fear. We shouldn't have to tolerate it. He should not have been out in the subway. So this is a failure of the government because this guy was out and about.
It was on a list of the top 50 homeless, mentally ill people who needed his help in New York, in a city of 8 million. And he had open warrants for assaulting women on the subway. He fractured a 68-year-old woman's orbital bone. Bottom line is this.
So this is the guy that attacked old women on the subway.
Good Samaritans can act now to protect themselves and others. And I think that across the country, Americans feel that we're back to law and order. Because as a result of defund the police movement, we don't have the police officers in the subway or in places where we need them. And we've got to have people like Daniel Penny who will stand up for the rest of us. Daniel Penny, who for the last year and a half went through hell. He faced imprisonment by, as far as I'm concerned, a corrupt political prosecutor,
Yeah, that's that Jewish lady that has a racial hatred of whites and Christians.
medical examiner who wouldn't even wait for the test results. I wouldn't tolerate that as my medical examiner when I was DA. Just said, we don't care how much drugs he had in him. This is a strangulation without all the attendant injuries that I won't waste your time with here. Daniel Penny, however, does face civil charges going forward. But tomorrow and today, when I spoke to his lawyers, and to him, they are trying to celebrate and kind of take in the fact that the justice system worked for them.
Yeah, and this is a case, it was interesting. Like to compare this because recently Nick Fuentes in his upcoming case, it was a little different. It was actually quite a bit different because Penny, he was acting to help other people because this guy was threatening and attacking other people, and you have a right to use reasonable force to stop that from happening. So in that case, he was found not guilty, which he should have been. Now in Fuentes' case, and we'll have to see, we saw the video, but he's going to have a harder time of it because, again, it wasn't like this old Jewish woman who's a piece of shit, shouldn't have been there at his doorstep. But still, she didn't attack him, and she wasn't attacking other people. And you don't legally have a right just to open the door and mace someone. You don't. If you have to ask them, hey, get off my property. You're trespassing. If you don't leave my property, I'm going to call the police. And it could be justified if, she tried to attack him or break in, then he could mace her. Yeah, that's great. But you just can't open the door and mace someone. That's not self-defense. So he's going to have a hard time with that. But I'm glad that Penny got off of this, and because I think that's what should have happened. And I think this is a good outcome, what has happened here. And again, Jordan Neely, he stabbed a grandma previously, and he broke her face. He had a rap sheet like 42 arrests, being charged, convictions. He had outstanding warrants. He was throwing trash at them, at passengers, and demanding money. And so, he should not have been out in public anyway. And part of the reason is, and this lady ironically always talks about holding people accountable, holding the Nazis accountable. Well, we got to hold people like her accountable. And I'd like to see Danielle Penny sue her. Daphna Yoran, she's that woman that, again, she a Holocaust survivor, yeah, right. And all these stories, and she sees all white people as white supremacists. And her basic idea, a lot of people have this view, that white people are never are justified to protect themselves against other people of color. Because it's not that she really likes blacks, but she sees them as a weapon as to hurt white people. So in her view, you can never defend yourself. You just have to take it. And we need to purge these people out of our system. She should face criminal charges. I hope she's under investigation. She should not be a district attorney. She needs to have civil charges, and she needs to, I think, face jail time for what she did. And she needs some accountability there. Now, Daniel Penny still has a civil charge against him, which is in the criminal is beyond a reasonable doubt. In civil, it's just a preponderance of the evidence. It's just 51% can convict you. He's still at risk from there, having a civil suit, and he may lose that. Again, you never know what jury you're going to get, and so that will be the issue there. And hopefully, though, he'll overcome that. But that was good news. And I think all good people are cheering that outcome. So I'm happy with that, to see that. And Rowhouse, Rams, could you do an entire reaction video on Danielle Penny's verdict and Jordan Neely's family reaction? Let's see here. I think we saw a little bit about this, but we'll look at this again here. So let's take a look here.
And I'm CHIVONA NEWSOME. I'm the co-founder of Black Lives Matter Greater New York. And I'm a devout Christian. And in my Bible, thou shalt not kill. In the Torah.
Well, but the same Bible that said thou shalt not kill, in the same Old Testament, they had the death penalty for murder and other crimes. So thou shalt not kill had to do with murder, not killing, obviously.
Thou shalt not kill. In Buddhism, not kill a living thing. But America has no moral, no soul. Our bloods have paved the streets of this nation since its inception.
Well, then we need to send you back so you can't be hurt by us anymore.
It was foolish of us to think that a black man would get justice in the system designed to. My heart bleeds for the Neely family. My heart bleeds for his father.
But see, her heart never bleeds with blacks that kill whites, which is the vast majority of the way the crime goes. So, yeah, I'm not going to watch all this. Thanks for sharing that. But it's just the usual stuff that we see there. But the difference is, I don't think we're going to see riots or anything because they've seen this behavior by people like Neely and they're tired of it. They want to be on a subway and ride peacefully without some thug threatening them, throwing trash at them or hitting them. We shouldn't have to live with those people. Penny looks almost like Captain Kirk's son in The Wrath of Khan. Oh yeah. I'll have to watch that again. I forgot that. That was a good movie. I'll have to rewatch that again and check that. Thanks for that suggestion though. Let's see here. I got a chat from Robert. Thank you. And this is a power chat. Oh, hang on here. I did a copy and paste, but my copy and paste had the old stuff in it. So let's see if this works. All right, here we go. Robert. Let's bring this up here. Okay, Robert says, a sense of the vibe shift as nobody is riding over the Daniel Perry verdict. I didn't know. I didn't check the news tonight. I predicted there wouldn't be any riots in New York City, and I don't think there will be. This is not 2020 and George Floyd anymore. People are tired on this on both the left and the right. Look at even Anna Kasparian and Chink Uyghur now. Yeah. People don't like violent criminals. It's just what it comes, or even criminals. You don't want to be around people like that. It's just something that ruins everything, your whole standard of living. And you should be able to act like a human being and not threaten people. And if you can't, you shouldn't be around us. You should be in prison or in a mental institution or whatever. And there's very little sympathy for these people, and there shouldn't be sympathy for these people. And again, it wasn't like Daniel Penny just randomly attacked some poor black man that was reading War and Peace. He was reading Tolstoy, but Daniel Penny, he's KKK, and he just hated black people because of their color of the skin, and he just randomly attacked him. No, that's not what happened. This guy Neely was the thug that was threatening other people, including blacks. And at the trial, the other black passengers were thanking Penny for defending them. So, and it wasn't just Penny, by the way. It was another black guy. Another black guy helped Penny to hold down this piece of shit. And I don't care Neely died. I think that's objectively a good thing. That was the best outcome because he's not hassling people anymore. He provided no value. He just harmed people his whole life. And yeah, so I think people are tired of that. And that is definitely a good thing. So that was Daniel Penny here. All right. Let's see here. What else we got here? I think we'll go to our third subject. We have three subjects tonight. We talked about Luigi, the CEO shooter, and Daniel Penny. And then we had, let me bring this up here. See what this is. All right. We're back in some nonsense in Syria again. Yeah, we'll watch this video. I did my Substack article about this a little bit, but we'll watch this.
Let's start with Madeline Rivera in Washington with the latest on what's going on in Syria and the reaction in Washington. Maddie, good morning.
Good morning, Carly. President Biden is looking at the situation in Syria with cautious optimism. The U.S. is waiting to see what leadership group will fill the vacuum left by President Bashar al-Assad.
It's a moment of historic opportunity for the long-suffering people of Syria to build a better future for their proud country. For years, the main backers of Assad have been Iran, Hezbollah, and Russia. But over the last week, their support collapsed, all three of them, because all three of them are far weaker today than they were when I took office.
Oh, they're not. Russia's far stronger and Iran's far stronger. What happened, and I'll discuss this, is Russia and Iran decided not to give that support anymore to Syria. And we could discuss why that happened.
You heard the president there taking some credit for the toppling of Assad. He's referencing the support the U.S. has given to Ukraine and Israel, which he says has shifted the balance of power in the Middle East. Moving forward, the president says the U.S. will engage with different Syrian groups, though he notes some of the rebels have their own ties of terrorism. Administration officials also say they need to make sure there is no resurgence of ISIS. To that end, yesterday, the U.S. launched dozens of strikes on more than 75 ISIS targets in central Syria. General Michael Eric Kurilla says there should be no doubt we will not allow ISIS to reconstitute and take advantage of the current situation in Syria.
Yeah, but the guy that's in charge right now is a literal terrorist that we had a bounty on. And let me show you that. This is just how crazy it is. Let me bring this up. This was posted on Twitter in 2017, right? And they had, you could get a reward of $10 million if you were to get this. And they're all named Muhammad. It's like, what the hell? Muhammad al-Jawalani. And see, I have nothing against these people, but they do not belong in England or America or France. They belong in their desert areas. And anyway, Muhammad al-Jawlani, you get $10 million. She was, stop this terrorist. Well, now he's in charge of Syria. And he's our friend, I guess. Funny things how that happens. He's part of Al-Qaeda and all the Sunni terrorists. What a clusterfuck that whole thing is. And Trump says we have no business over there, and I agree with him. What I think happened is, and as I explained in my article day on my Substack, there's really a difference between neocons and Zionists. We kind of conflate the two terms. And sometimes you have people that are both, and frequently that's the case. Like John Bolton, he's a neocon, and he's a big Zionist, Israel firster. But there are people that are Zionists that aren't necessarily neocons, because neocons, they were the old Trotskyites historically that, came in, the so-called conservatives. They don't really have any conservative positions, but they want globalism. They want to attack anyone that rejects their view of a global government, like Russia and China. They really hate Russia. Because it's always joke, but it's some truth. They envision a day there's gay pride parades in Beijing and Russia. Everyone lives in the pod, that type of stuff. They're like the World Economic Forum. Soros is a globalist, and the neocons like him. Because a lot of the neocons like Soros, they don't really like Israel. Some neocons don't like Israel. Soros, a big example. And so it gets a little bit confused here. And if you look at the administration coming in, Trump is a big Zionist. He is. He definitely puts, I think, Israel first, like most American politicians do. And there's a couple of reasons for it. One is the heavily influence the Israeli lobby has in the media and finance. And if you go against them, you're kind of blacklisted. So they play ball. But there's also the Christian Zionism that Jews are God's special people. They get a special pass from the big guy. And if we give them money, God will bless us. There's that group too. And so those are the Zionists. And the incoming Trump administration is heavily Zionist. And you hear Trump talking shit about Iran all the time. Loves Israel more than life itself. That's the Trump administration coming in. But then when you hear him talk about Ukraine, they're like, yeah, why are we there? I don't know why we're pissing our money away on this. Why can't we be friends with Russia? So they're really not neocons, though, for the most part. I mean, there's some neocons maybe coming in administration, but J.D. Vance isn't a neocon anymore. Vivek isn't. Elon Musk isn't. Trump's not. They're not. They're very skeptical of this war with Russia, this proxy war with Russia. And Trump's made it clear he wants to wrap that up. So what has happened here? We have an administration that is very Zionist, and taking Syria out was a huge Zionist victory. Already, Israel has used the opportunity to expand their territory. They always hated Assad because Assad provided a weapons flow to Hezbollah, which fought in Lebanon against Israel and Israel's incursions. So they always wanted to take out Assad because of that reason. And now that he's taken out, they probably are in a better situation now. Israel is, a Zionist are. But the question is why did Russia and Iran decide not to really support Syria? Because something was up. It wasn't like a long battle or a lot of fighting where the rebels defeated the Syrian army. The Syrian army, they just didn't fight. So people were like paid off, like the officers, and for whatever reason, they refused to fight and everything fell fast. So there was something behind the scenes that we don't know about. There was, I think, a deal that was reached. And I speculated this just the other day, and I wrote about this morning. Then I saw some Russian source was saying the same thing, even before this was after I wrote my article, but it kind of confirmed my speculation. And it's just speculation. But I think one of the things that may have happened behind the scenes, there's been a little trade where Trump is willing to trade Ukraine for Syria because Trump cares more about Israel and protecting Israel and fighting Hezbollah, and he doesn't really give a shit about Ukraine. And if you look at Russia, that would be a trade they would do. So if there's been some backdoor deal that's not official, that Trump told Putin, hey, if you quit supporting Syria, we want to get rid of Assad, and because we want to help, our God's all-stars, we will, whatever you get in Ukraine, you can keep, and we'll make sure Zelensky signs a peace treaty. And if he doesn't sign a peace treaty, don't worry about it. He'll disappear. So I could see something like that happening. And with Iran's a lot more powerful than Syria. They're a powerful nation. Syria is kind of was always a small, third world country. Iran is a little more sophisticated. In fact, Iran, during the war, has helped Russia with a lot of their drone technology. In many ways, Iran was the leader of drone technology, even versus the United States. They popularized the small drones. The United States, we had real expensive drones. The Iranians, they kind of figured, hey, we can make a lot of small drones. And they really worked with the Russians on that. So Iran is really starting to get integrated closely with Russia and even somewhat to China. And Iran, I don't think anymore, yeah, they care about their Muslim brothers being killed by the Israelis in Gaza, but not that much. Mostly they want to start to become part of the global superpower. They want to get their nuclear weapons so they can protect themselves from Israel. And they want an alliance with Russia. Syria, not so much. Meaning, I'm sure that they did support Assad, but they were willing to overlook a few things. And we saw that. Remember, Israel's been trying to get us in a war with Iran. They've been baiting Iran by doing all these attacks and assassinating people and whatnot. But Iran's response has always been very tepid. They haven't really been aggressively attacking Israel. A lot of people didn't understand why. And I think the point is Iran doesn't want a war with the United States or Israel, at least not at this time. They would rather build up, get a solid alliance with Russia and China, be part of that alliance. And if they have to sacrifice Syria, they will do that. So I think behind the scenes, and I read this Russian article, they were saying the same thing, that there was some negotiation to leave Assad high and dry. And, the Syrians, the Turks were attacking them. Then you had Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Israel, and their meddling. So you had a lot of factions coming against Assad because he was like a minority ruler. His group of Muslims, they were a minority. And so it was an unstable situation. So I think this has been a win, definitely, for the Zionists. I know a lot of people are anti-Zionist, so Israel got a big win here with Assad being defeated. But the neocons, I'm not really so sure, because the neocons are more concerned about Russia. And I think there might have been a deal struck with Russia in this regard. So, yeah, so it's kind of a mix there. But that's what happened. Pam Hyde, can you think of any examples of a country just rolling over and letting itself be conquered like Syria just did? It's unbelievable to me. Afghanistan. Afghanistan, the official government fell within 1 day after we left. And they didn't even fight. They just gave up to the Taliban immediately. Let me see what else. In many ways, Iraq kind of did. They didn't really fight very hard. Yeah, so there's some examples of that happening. And I think there was a deal struck with some of the leaders. And again, Syria was a corrupt nation. I liked Assad. He was good for Christians. He didn't want to kill Christians. And he was, as far as third world dictators go, he was okay. But he was still, corrupt. And once his army turned on him, that's what happened. I mean, that happens a lot. There was, I would say, after communism fell in Romania, Ceausescu, that all fell apart really quick. There was really some fire battles, but not many. And the army turned on him. So if you're able to get the army to turn and you strike deals with the commanders, yeah, it can happen. So this is, I guess, good news for Israel. I wouldn't say this is good news for Ukraine, though. And Trump's made it clear that Zelensky needs to negotiate and quit acting like a little bitch. And I think that's, and Russia's doing really well in Ukraine. And they didn't really do much in Syria. And a lot of people are saying, oh, it's because Russia's weak. And it's like, nah, I don't think this was their priority anymore. Neither was Iran. All right, let's see here. It's been a good show. We got through the 3 topics, and I'll be back tomorrow. Should be fun. But I always want to end with something fun. This is an animal one, but it's also kind of, remember that Christmas song? Grandma got ran over by the reindeer. Remember that song? It's kind of a silly song. Well, this has actually happened. Grandma got ran over by the reindeer. We're going to take a look at this. This was some run they were doing, and a bunch of reindeers went crazy. Watch this. Just knocked her down in the balloon. She's okay, but it's just weird. All these reindeer or deer ran through and just knocked over everyone. Luckily, no one was hurt. It was kind of funny. I have to admit, it was a little bit funny to see that. All right, guys. So those were the 3 big stories today. Penny, Luigi, and Syria. We'll see what tomorrow brings. But thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.